Thank you very much. The discussion continues, and my guests won't even hear me that we are back on the air.
People will not listen to advice.
You have been listening to Godfrey Bokping, Professor of Finance and Economics at the University of Ghana, Dr. John Osai Kwapong, Fellow, CDD Ghana, and Project Director, the Democracy Project, Alhaji Haruna Mohammed, Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, and Shamima Muslim, Deputy Presidential Spokesperson. Earlier, we spoke to Reverend Father Michael Kweku, Director of Governance and Justice, Peace, Ghana Catholic Bishops Conference. Joining us now is Professor Kwesi Enim, Security Analyst. Prof, thank you very much. And we're starting straight with you on the matter of what gains we seem to be making in our economy, and Fitch also now giving us a nod. The finance minister is excited. He says we are on a trajectory that we are going to sustain. Then suddenly, the Middle East shows up in the way it has. Some, oil areas are suffering some of the bombing. What do you say? Where are we headed?
Well, we are certainly not heading into a very good place. And it is not as sudden as it looks. When you have a country that has a sense, and I'm talking about Israel, a sense of superiority and an unabiding confidence in its right to determine how other people should behave and think, then that type of behavior creates, tensions and uncertainty. So something we are heading into a period of global uncertainty and deepening tension. And far away, Ghana, we've already started to feel it. This Israeli arrogance in which its ambassador to Ghana wants to give us basic lessons in international diplomacy and geopolitics. And I'm happy the foreign minister called him and gave him a dressing down. But Mr. Finance Minister's optimism will need to be checked by the hands-on, practical interventions to protect the economy from the shocks that we are going to see. And I think already something we are seeing how Ghana is re-evaluating its economic policy, leading to the suspension of the petroleum levy, which was supposed to have given us about $5.7 billion in extra revenue. So that is a hole that we are supposed, or the minister will have to fill. So on the economic side, we are going to see crude oil prices rise. Already stock markets are experiencing sharp corrections and readjustments. Investor confidence as to the extent to which their investments are going to grow, particularly in emerging markets, are being shaken. We are going to notice deepening supply route disruptions if the Strait of Hormuz is attacked. Already the Egyptians are worried about the impact on the Suez Canal through considerably long detours by ships, leading to delivery costs and rise in insurance premiums. So all that will affect Ghana. But we need a very delicate balancing act because we have very deep relationship with the Israelis. Actually, we are the first country on this continent in which the Israeli Defense Forces contributed to training the 64th Battalion in counterterrorism measures that were then practiced in Accra under a simulated exercise called Operation Home Shield. So Ghana's relationship with Israel in terms of development, technology, agriculture, and security, and of course, similar relationships with Iran, will have to be evaluated consistently. But I would argue that the position that Ghana has taken now, abstaining on the non-proliferation, treaty vote, and consistently urging both sides to the conflict to be tempered in their actions is the right way to go. But certainly the economy is going to suffer.
Possible quick.
To say a name, I think that yes, in the last 5 months or so, government has also demonstrated a commitment to economic stability, and I think that is also comforting, because what we have seen is that we don't have control over these external shocks, but your ability to withstand that depends on how well you manage your economy and all of that. So far, if you look at the 4 thematic areas that Fitch and a lot of the rating agencies who use to assess a country, we are doing well along almost all the 4. The structural issues, about governance, there's been a lot of reforms under the IMF supported program. And even the government is fast-tracking some of them, some that we needed to meet somewhere September, thereabout, they've brought it forward and all of that. And when it comes to economic performance, you can see the GDP growth has been higher than even the IMF forecast consistently and all of that. But of course, there also, if you see the volatility with the growth, it tells you that we need to, the resilience is not there the way we expect, but we are making the progress. Then again, when it comes to public finance, and I think when it comes to public finance, government is doing well. I have congratulated them in terms of the expenditure-based fiscal consolidation they've adopted relative to the revenue-based fiscal consolidation that imposes a lot of burden on Ghanaians. Then again, if you look at external balance, of course, the government inherited considerable reserves from the previous administration. So all of that. So if you look at it along this, one would have even expected that the rating could have come a little earlier and all of that. Then again, if you see so far, in terms of the pass-through, we haven't seen the kind of jump in terms of world oil price that we had anticipated and all of that. But the question is, how would this persist?
Iran, as we understand, contributes 4% of global oil production, and 4 of their fuel depots or refineries have been impacted by what is going on.
Yes.
And just that, if you check even gas prices in the US, it's really gone up.
Yes. So unfortunately for Ghana, we don't have a buffer. So sometimes we say we have the resilience. From the reserve point of view, yes. But in terms of national fuel, even in the event that there's disruption in the global supply chain, how long can we continue and all of that? But I think the good thing also is that government recognizes that, and I'm sure is a reason, as Professor Nim said, is a reason they decided to shelve the 1 Ghana cedi levy, even though I felt that there was scope for it to stay a little bit and monitor the development before you take it. That's my considered view and all of that. Because at the end of the day, you are looking at it that you need to balance the fiscal discipline, expenditure cut, and the need to also spend progressively to engineer growth and create what we call job-rich growth. So those are the delicate things that we have to move on. But if you see the jump in terms of the scaling of the rating, I think that is quite good. And of course, you can't take the joy away from the Minister of Finance and all of that, because remember, it's a lot of sacrifice. And he's put his colleague ministers on the waiting list simply because he wants to put the books, the numbers in the right shape and all of that. So, of course, his colleague ministers may not be totally happy because they also went to the various ministries with a vision and they need the money to implement that. But I think going forward, I believe that he will need to balance that, and they will need to rake in a lot of revenue.
Prof. Enin, what should be our role, somewhat, if any at all, to ensure that we are mitigating the impact?
Well, I mean, on the economy, there's not too much I can say. But I think mitigating the impact diplomatically on this continent will have to be done through the African Union. Already there seems to be clear split if you look at the utterances, coming from most African countries, the South Africans, Algeria, Tunisia, Sudan, have utterly and in the strongest possible ways condemned what Israel is doing. We have restrained ourselves together with Nigeria. Egypt has expressed deep, concerns over the impact on Egypt itself, but certainly over the Suez that contributes substantial sums to its economy. Look, African states will have to reshape the nature of our alliances. And for West Africa, certainly Ghana, Nigeria, and Senegal can lead that charge. The African Union is not showing the leadership that we need. So a combination of these three countries, plus Egypt, Algeria, and South Africa, can begin that process of having a conversation first at the Peace and Security Council, but also at least within the public domain. What do we do and how do we negotiate this very tricky global space? Because the geopolitics and the alliances as we know them are continuously shifting. And I think people like all of us in this on this platform right now can and should contribute to this debate.
So a position ought to be taken as into responding to the call by the Iranian ambassador to Ghana, who says that all responsible and peace-loving members of the international community should not remain indifferent, and that they have to take urgent collective measures to hold the regime and its supporters accountable?
We need to, because you see, if you take the last vote on the Non-Proliferation Treaty, Israel is not a member of that agreement, but has the temerity to say Iran, that is a member of the treaty, is not complying with the terms of the treaty. So we want to put vote. Therein lies my argument for Africa to reshape its alliances, but also to show the urgency that is necessary. We don't have the power, we don't have the money, but we can bring some morality back into how international instruments and agreements are interpreted and hopefully also applied.
But these are people who are afraid of their enemies seeking to erase them from the face of the earth.
Yes, but that is ahistorical. Israel always presents itself as the victim, but the politics of the Middle East points to something totally different. If you look at the pictures from the 1940s and 50s and 60s, okay, almost everything they had on it state of Palestine.
Okay.
Now that narrative is totally lost. So I think we need to go back to history and not allow the Israelis to determine the content and the mode of
Thank you very much. I'll take 30 seconds from Shamima. And Suleimana, is it the impact on oil prices will start coming in if Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, which is the choke point of global oil transport, accounting for 24%. So we shouldn't be surprised that the impact is yet to be felt. This is because the Strait of Hormuz will still operate on full
before
stream.
The impact, I think that we can all agree that we have made some modest gains since we came.
Time is up, unfortunately.
The deep collaboration that is happening between the managers of the economy, and I'm proud to say, when I hear independent voices affirm that the indicators and the outlook is positive, that is reassuring. We do know that we may go into choppy waters, so what we keep reminding ourselves is that this country, this economy, we all need to work together to weather the storms. When the challenges come, know that there's a president that is totally committed to resetting the economy and making it work for Ghanaians. And
thank you very much.
In our
thank you very much.